Hello, everyone. I'm Christina Stanley, CEO of Fictionary, and I am here today again to do an author interview with, of course, an author who has edited her books within Fictionary. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Kay Freeman, and she's going to tell you a little bit about who she is and about her books. Hi, Kay.
Hey, glad to see you. I was born in Buffalo, New York, and my father was a colonel in the Air Force. So I moved about 5 times before I graduated from high school. So let's say I spent a lot of time probably introverted in my room doing art and writing stories and reading primarily. And now I live in Wilmington, Delaware, and I like to write about damaged characters transformed by love. So that's pretty much my primary interest at this point in time. I have about 300 hours in teaching yoga and taking classes in yoga. And I completed a 10-day silent retreat in Vipassana meditation.
Wow.
And that actually entered into my book because one of my characters is also a yogi and meditates. And the protagonist of my story happens to me to be part of a motorcycle club. And my haunted by memories of Afghanistan. And my brother-in-law was a Marine, a Vietnam vet, and he was also a lifetime member of the Warlocks Motorcycle Club. So he inspired the creation of that character. So that's kind of my bio in a brief way.
Very nice. Okay, so it sounds like you brought a lot from your personal life, maybe your career a bit, into your story. So let's talk about your book, Truth Moon, and tell us first what it's about, when it came out, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, it's a dark romance suspense,
Okay.
and it basically is kind of about a young yogi who has a secret past, who moves to Vegas to teach yoga.
Okay.
And she runs into a president of a motorcycle club who overhears her having a argument with a boss because he discovers she's not who she says she is.
Oh,
And he talks her into going with him to his club because if she doesn't, he's going to reveal her secret and call the police. So she goes with him. She's kind of in a drug state, and she goes with him. And once there, she meets this man that she ends up falling in love with. He's supposed to be her handler in this pseudo sex club,
right.
and they fall in love. And then decisions have to be made about whether he's going to leave, help her escape once he discovers she's not there willingly,
Right.
because his boss tells him she came willingly. And once he discovers she didn't, he has to make a decision. So that's
Right.
the heart of the book. And
Good.
it's classified as dark romance. And, that's his genre.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so what was the hardest part of writing it?
Uh, the editing, of course, is the hardest part. I mean, you have an idea, you're inspired by something, and I was inspired by, of course, Shades of Grey and Sons of Anarchy. I watched that show all through, right up to the ending of the show. And I had an idea about writing a book. I thought, oh, well, this Shades of Grey was a stupid book, and I can write that. And, it's not a stupid book. It's a
Right.
very actually well-paced book with a
Mhm.
great story. I might not like the way it's written, but it has all the elements of being a really great book. And if I should be lucky to live long enough to write such a great book, I'd be very happy. So, but I didn't know that at the time. I just thought if she can do this, anybody can do this. And so I proceeded to
Okay.
go for it. And, 4 or 5 years later, I was still at it, plugging away.
Yep.
So I went to Romance Writers of America in 2019. They had a big conference in New York City, and I went to it and basically hid out in my room most of the time. I was so intimidated by the whole thing of what was going on because I was still writing at that point, and I'm sitting at tables with women who had backlists of 8 or 9 books, and it just was overwhelming, and it was a huge event. I got something out of it, but I was just blown away. And I was just, intimidated by the language, HEA. I didn't know what HEA, happy ever after. I didn't know even what that term meant.
Yeah.
I mean, I read romance. It doesn't mean I know every term. So, I came home from that, but I just kept plugging on. Then I saw the RAMP program advertised on their webpage, and the RAMP program spoke to me, and I decided I'm going to shoot for that. I'm going to get a manuscript that's pulled enough together
Right.
to apply. And I read it was very competitive. And this was right before COVID hit and all of that.
Mhm.
And I just decided I'm going to go for it. I'm going to apply for 2021, and I'm going to make it my mission to get this thing whipped into some kind of shape to
Good.
do it. And I put all my efforts into it. And I had it, line edited to make sure that it, read like something that a human being would, write.
Well, a human being did write it.
Yes, but, you want it to be readable. And then once I saw the mentor list, the people that were mentoring, I tried to do backgrounds on all of those people to find the best fit for
Yep.
me. It wasn't about finding a heavy hitter or somebody, like really up there. It was about finding someone that I thought my book would resonate with,
Yeah.
somebody that I thought, I was a good fit for, the book would fit with. And once I narrowed it down to a couple people, I put those two people on my list, and I got my application together and I applied. And, unfortunately or fortunately, I did get picked, but it was an unfortunate year because I guess because of COVID, everybody was writing novels. And it was just one of those years that everybody put forth a thing, and it was extremely competitive. So I felt very lucky to have gotten selected. And I think one of the reasons I was selected is because I picked the right person, somebody that my novel would resonate with. So I can't, stress anybody that's interested in doing this to make sure you do backgrounds on the people, and
Yeah.
that you pick the person that you think your novel will resonate. Don't send your novel to somebody that, does, if you do inspirational, don't send it to somebody who does dark romance,
Right.
make sure it's a good fit.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what exactly is the RAMP program?
Okay, what they do is they take beginning authors and they match you up with a more seasoned published author. Usually they have to have a couple books at least published, and
Right.
they match you up with them. And then if you're selected for that program, you get to work with them for 6 months, and they read your manuscript and they give you advice on what to change, what to fix.
Okay.
Maybe you're like with me, maybe, you've got, two chapters too early. You're in, things could come out of there. It's boring. Or maybe, in my case, she thought my villain of my story was like a paper cut villain. He didn't have any depth to him.
Right.
He wasn't a real person. And if I expected to use him in a later book, I needed to make him more real and redeemable.
Okay.
So, I could get people to care about him to some extent.
Right.
So, things like that. And she's got me thinking more like an author, like, thinking in a serious kind of way,
Yeah.
and thinking about putting strands down to lead to the next book. So, I wasn't writing just a standalone. Yes, it stands alone,
Yeah.
but it leads to the next book. And I'm dropping these breadcrumbs so that I have somewhere to go with the next book.
Okay.
And so
So
she got me thinking.
how did the process work then? Did you like give your whole manuscript and then you met with
Yes,
them, or what was
yes.
the
I gave my whole manuscript. So when you apply, you have to have a whole finished manuscript, and it has to be submitted with your application.
right?
So you can't even apply to this program unless your manuscript is complete.
Okay. Good to know.
And then your mentor gets that manuscript, they read it, and then they get back to you. Now, everybody works it a different way. Sometimes they would just, let's just work on the first chapter. Or sometimes they'd say, well, let's just, talk about, the whole book, the
Hmm.
premise of the book. Everybody did different things because everybody has had a different problem with their book. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it just depended on
Okay.
what your mentor wanted you to do. And sometimes we met on Zoom, sometimes we met by, email. It
Okay.
just depended.
Okay. And is there a fee for the program when you
It's completely free. So
really?
it's completely free. The
Yep.
mentor donates their time. It's like a
Nice.
gift back. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Now, there is another program called Pen and Paper that they started 2 years ago, which does have a fee. And this is for someone that, let's say, does not have a finished manuscript,
Right.
wants to learn how to write romance novels, has a deep interest in it,
Yep.
and wants to learn, but they don't have a finished manuscript. Now, when I went to RWA's convention in Washington this year, I met an author who just got selected for RAMP's program this year, who was in Pen and Paper last year.
Nice.
So it
Nice
kind of served as a stepping
process.
stone,
Nice.
so I thought that was great. I don't know what the charge of it is, but with that particular program, you're in a cohort, a very small group of 5 people, and you work with one mentor, and
Right.
she helps you write.
Okay. And so was the book that you submitted Truth Moon?
Yes.
Okay. And so you finished the ramp program. Then what did you do?
Okay. So what I had after the RAMP program was still not a finished book.
Okay.
And I would say many of us in the program did not have a finished book. We had a book that was better than what we put in.
Hmm.
I mean, it was way better. But what I didn't like about my book was the pacing of my book.
Okay.
Like, I thought there were parts of it that just seemed boring, and I couldn't figure out how to fix it and
Okay.
what was going on. So I don't know how I found out about you. It wasn't through a search. I think I took some kind of a class somewhere, and you and someone else were doing some editing thing. And then
Okay.
I think that there was some, promotion at the end of it, buy this Fictionary thing, and there
Right.
was a price or something. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do this because I've spent my money in other ways. And this seems like an interesting program. So
Okay.
I bought it. And then I dumped my thing in there. I dumped my manuscript in there. And it was so easy. So I thought, well, this is one step in the right direction. I was easy. And I
Yeah.
am one of these people that if it's not easy, I will never use it again.
Yep.
So it was extremely easy. Then I liked all the little tutorials, that you have right there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really have to leave unless I really want to, and have
Right.
a further explanation, which normally I'm like, a husband putting a thing together. I don't want a big long explanation
Yeah.
and redirections. I just want a little thing.
Blue. Yes.
You have the little thing there. I love that. But what I loved about it right away was that arc, the story arc. Well, I
Hmm.
could see all of a sudden, oh, this doesn't match up. Oh, those little plots. Well, it said right there, the inciting incident happened too late. So then I thought, oh, well, there's a problem right there.
Yep.
So, so I fixed that. So then it was a lot better. Then I noticed towards the end of the book, I had like hardly any descriptions of any environments. It was just all like talking heads, basically,
Yep.
is what I had.
Yeah.
So I started working on that. So I had it in there, I'd say a good month. And when I was done with it, it was 100% better. And that was only for a month.
Yeah.
So I felt so much better about it.
Great.
So I gave it to this guy that I used to, read my stuff. And he said, this is great. You need to give this to, and, send it out now. It's ready.
Nice.
And I had originally was going to self-publish. That was kind of my thing. I was going to self-publish. But he's like, Kay, do you really want to self-publish? He goes, do you even have time to self-publish? He goes, you know how much work is involved? And he goes, you've been sick, you've had problems. He goes, you want to write. He said, for a first book, I think you should try to, you want to do book 1, 2, and 3. Try to get these have a publisher handle it. And if you don't like it, you can always self-publish the next 3 or whatever. But try it. And he says, you'll find somebody. This is good enough to get published. He said, send it out.
Yeah.
So I started doing research online, and I started looking at people that just published, romance or mystery or that kind of thing, and were in that genre. And I found this publisher and I started doing research on him. And I looked at other romance writers that wrote with him. And I thought my book fits in here. And so I started looking, and I actually contacted a couple of the writers that wrote for him.
Mhm.
And they told me, what to do. And they said, do not send a make sure that it's line edited, make sure it's really neat, because they will only take like 10% of the people that apply. And it's not because of the story quality. They have to love the story quality, but if it's really badly edited, they will just refuse you outright because they
Yep.
think if you don't care about your story, then, you know,
That's a really important point, what you just said right there for other writers out there you yourself have to take your story like it's a professional product
right,
and
right.
and deal with that way. That's really good. Yeah, good
I
for you.
mean, I think I thought, oh, well, that's why you're taking it to them. They're editors. They should be doing it. But that's not how they think.
No, no, they want the serious authors who are easy to work with and already have a good product and they have to do a little bit and
Right. A little bit.
yeah.
And when I gave them Truth Moon, there was so little. I mean, I just finished my developmental edits probably 3 weeks ago, and there was hardly anything. I had to put uh, Vegas in further in the first page because
Right.
it's on page 2 and they didn't like that. And I had to make my chapters longer in some of my chapters because they have a minimum chapter length of 2,500 words.
Really?
Yes, which I found really strange.
That's
Because,
fascinating.
yeah, they have a minimum track, and some of my chapters were shorter than that because I like fast reading chapters because it's very fast reading. I like it to
Sure.
read fast. Well, I had to change that, but it was good because it actually gave me a chance to really examine again the story. And it did go very quickly for me to rearrange things a little bit.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah,
it made it
sure.
easy. So I feel very good about working with the publisher. I like the publisher, and it is a load off my mind because they did the cover. I mean, they gave me a cover designer, they worked on the cover, and it was out of my hands. I haven't had to do every step of the way.
Right, which
So
is
now we're at the line editing phase.
okay. Yeah.
And so when you ask when will this book be out, from I'm supposed to get my galleys, have my galleys at the end of September. And once I sign off on those, there's no going back. Then it's 4 months from galleys.
Okay.
So 4 months from galleys, because they need 4 months to do all their crapola,
Yeah,
their,
of course they do.
yeah,
Which is, that's great because, when it comes out, you let me know because we'll push
right,
it out on our network
right,
and we'll post it in our community and we'll
right.
put all the links out there and we're really proud to show off of Fictionary edited books, right? It's just,
Right.
it's fantastic.
So I'm happy to say my second book is going much quicker than my first book because I thought if it takes me 5 years to get out a second book, I will go nuts. So
Mm-mm.
during Nano last year, during the month of November, I wrote my second book, and I
Okay.
immediately put it into two programs. I put it into Living Writer, which I used a hero's journey,
Yep.
and
Okay.
had that in there for about a month. Then I dumped it into your program and
Okay.
started working in there. And it was such a different experience having that as my like form and my armature, I call it,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
kind of shape the story and fill in all the blanks, because after Nano, you really have a hot mess on your hands. You're just
Yeah.
writing and writing and writing and
Sure.
writing,
Yeah.
but just to get the words down. But having, a program like Fictionary to shape everything and bring it back into some sense of reality is so,
I'm
it's,
loving this. This is so good. I'm just loving it
well,
because that's
it's
the
just
whole
great to
goal.
have that. And,
Yeah.
when people say, oh, well, why do you need that? I just do Scriber and I just do,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's great, but that's great to write in. But what are you doing to pull it all together at
Yeah.
the end? And what are you
Yeah.
doing to check yourself?
Yeah.
Have you been writing for 40 years? I mean, I haven't been writing that long,
Right.
I don't consider. And I need that. I think this program is teaching me how to become a better writer. It's
Nice.
reminding me to do all the things I should be doing.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more natural to me. Now, when I'm even doing it the first time, I'm starting to think about these things from the first time. So it's like training me. to
You
be a
know,
writer.
you couldn't say this better for me because these are all the things that we hope for, that once you learn it, you know it, and then the next book is easier, and the next book is easier because you need an entry hook, you need an exit hook.
Right,
Your brain goes there
right,
once it's been taught how to do it. I just
right.
two things I want to say. One is you might have heard of us on National Novel Writing Month, because we have a very close relationship with them. And over the fall, we do, and last spring and stuff, we were doing webinars with
Yeah,
Writing Mastery Academy together,
that's
like
it.
editing.
With her, Jessica Brody.
Well, she's fabulous. She's just like she knows
I have
stories.
that program too,
Yeah,
and
she's
I
really
love
great.
that.
Yeah, and the thing we love about it is her theory matches right up to the Fictionary software. And so if somebody wants to go super deep into theory, her product is right there to do that.
Right.
And, some of the words and terminology we use are a little bit different, but the whole process
Concepts.
of how you do it is all
Right.
the same. And so
Yeah, I
we
love her
met and
stuff.
just thought, oh, she is like my new BFF because the
Right,
two of
right,
us could
right.
just talk about story. And so it was really exciting relationship. So there was that. And there was something else you said about, I forgot now. We'll have to move on. I lost it.
Right,
I'll
right.
come back to it. So and who is your publisher?
The Wild Rose Press.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I've heard of them. That's fantastic. It's just such super advice to pay attention to. You've mentioned twice doing your research of reaching out to authors who've done the same thing, talking to them, and then figuring out how to be successful and get into the program or get the publisher.
Right.
That's super advice right there. So, on your second book, so what's the title of the second book?
Carrot Moon.
Carrot Moon. So it's book two in a series.
Yes.
Okay, so same protagonist.
Yes.
Okay, and so let's talk a little bit. What are you doing differently then in book two versus book one when you're actually writing it?
Well, first of all, I started right off the bat with writing my hook for it. What I'm doing differently is that I actually have a hook before I even started the book. I'm with this one, I also know my characters so much better. I also have my plot already established
Okay.
in advance. I know exactly where I'm going with it. It's not like I'm just writing on the fly. I got all this down before I even started Nano. I had my plot and I started writing. So I think it was, important for me. Yeah, I believe in the creative spirit and the creative juices. I'm a creative person.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you have it for me, at least, I have to have some kind of structure. I can deviate and let creative things come, but having a building, a structure to put it on, a framework is really important. So this time I had that, and that's why I think things went faster. And then when I put it into Fictionary, it just, like I said, I just was filling in all the blanks,
Yeah.
so to speak, all the things I missed, like, okay, I didn't put a setting here,
Right.
and okay, I didn't really start anything with dialogue, and I don't have a really good ending to that scene. It's really boring. And what's going to make somebody want to go to the next scene if that scene kind of is like,
Right.
whatever. And maybe I have too many scenes that are really action packed, but then the next ones are like really boring. I need to spread this thing
Sure.
more,
Yeah.
up and
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So it starts getting you to think more. And so, I'm not going to spend the 2 years getting this book out. So this book I've already sent to, an editor friend who looked at it and he said, Kay, this is so much better than your first book as far as, you don't have to change anything. Like, he
Nice.
made a couple of suggestions and he goes, it's ready for line editing. I said, hold on. I'm sending that to some beta readers.
Sure.
Bet you like it, but he's a guy and I need women to read it. So I sent it out to 5 beta readers. So I'm waiting for them to get back. So once that book gets back from the beta readers, I'll make some changes, whether it needs, who knows what, more sex, less sex, whatever.
So, okay, let me ask you about your beta readers. Do you give them instruction ahead of time, or do you just let them read it and they come back with what they want to tell you?
I give them some questions of
Okay.
things that I might have questions about, like, I gave it to two beta readers that have never read the first book.
Okay.
So I thought that was important because I
Yes.
wanted to be able to be read as a standalone.
Sure.
And I wanted to know if they felt lost at any point, anything didn't ring, like they were just lost or confused. Um, things that I thought, to make sure the character was likable, because
Hmm.
the first character, the girl in the story, the young lady in the story, she has a moral slip in this story, where in the first story she was like Miss Perfect. So
Ooh,
in this one, she has a big slip, and
good.
she's the one that has to be transformed. So this one, is she still likable to the people that
Yeah.
had read her in the first book? Or is
Okay.
she now like, oh, are you appalled by her behavior?
Right, right,
Or
right.
are you forgiving? And I use the tarot cards as kind of she believes in these tarot cards, and so I'm using those to introduce the chapters. And when she gets a tarot card, that kind of factors into some of the things that are happening in the book. So I ask about that, whether they liked it, didn't like it,
Okay.
what their thoughts were on that, and then I just let them put in their own thoughts. And
Right.
the three I'm using from the last time around were ones that I really thought they gave me good feedback on different things. So I don't really need to tell them what to do. They know what to do. They
Right, right. Okay. And so let's just talk back up a little bit with the publisher. So do you write the blurb for the book that's going to be
Yes,
published, or do they,
they asked me to write it.
okay?
They asked me to write it unless you really have a problem. Now, that doesn't mean I don't get feedback, because I took a couple of my blurbs and I sent them to her, my editor,
Yeah.
and she gave me feedback on what she liked, what she didn't like. And I
Right.
kept trying again and again
Hard.
and again until I got one that she really liked. And then she said, oh, I really like this one.
Right.
So I worked with her
Nice.
to get
Nice.
one. I didn't just send one and say, this is my blurb. And I
Okay.
did a lot of homework on this too. I mean, I looked at people's blurbs till I was, my eyes
Yeah.
were falling out.
Yeah.
And, I think distilling it down into this is harder than writing the darn book. But,
I know.
maybe you
I
need,
know. It really is. For novelists too, right? You think, I gotta
yeah,
write this whole thing in
yeah,
250
yeah.
words?
But
What?
that's why it's good, I think, even looking at hook and writing your hook in advance, because it actually helps shape the story a little bit. It
Yeah.
helps you keep your story in mind and
Right.
in your vision. And I think Jessica Brody was big on that. And, I think all of that is helpful information when you're trying to write a book.
Now, do you have a blurb that we can share with our followers? Or is it too soon in the process yet to put?
Well, for this new one, this is the one I've written so far. While hiding out with her boyfriend, an ex-member of a motorcycle club, a young yoga instructor discovers text messages that convince her he's losing interest. And later that evening attends a class on tarot card reading, becoming convinced they hold the secrets to her future. She has no idea a man claiming to be her birth father, an IRA member she believed dead, will soon throw their world into chaos.
Nice. Okay. So we got the protagonist, we got the goal, and we go, what's at stake? That's really good.
So
Terrific.
that's just what I, got
Yeah.
up with, and it'll probably
It'll change it,
it'll
right to
change.
the
They
end
always
until it's
do.
until it's the print, right? Right. Until now we've printed, it's done, right? At that point,
Yeah,
you must let it go. But
exactly.
yeah, oh, fantastic. Okay, so that's exciting. Did the publisher ask you to write a synopsis?
Oh yeah, this one is now. I don't know how it's going to be with my second book, but on that first book, if you expect to apply to them, um, then I would say you're going to have a detailed one. I'm talking about that gives a blow by blow of everything that happens in your book. And even
Right.
the ending, everything, the ending. They want
Hmm.
to know everything. And they will not even read your manuscript until they look at that.
Okay.
They won't even, they'll read the first 5 pages because you send that with your thing, but they won't even read your book unless they like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they'll ask for it. But if they don't like that, they're not even going to ask for that book.
And again, there's the talent in summarizing your whole book into did they ask for it in 500 words or 1,000 words? Do you remember?
No, no, they just said it detailed. And I think it was detailed. It was 10 pages long.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was long.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. So they liked it, obviously. It was
They
a good
loved it.
synopsis.
She came back. She said, "It sounds like an exciting read. Please send." And I sent it.
Fantastic. That is that's
Now I had a shorter one that's only like one page. That's very, very short. And I didn't even have a detailed one. I had to sit down and write that. And that took me a week to write the thing. But I was serious about applying to them. And, I sat down and wrote it.
yeah.
So I'm probably going to go ahead and write the long one just to have it,
Yeah.
because I think it's good to have it.
It is.
And
And I believe too, if you can't write a synopsis, there's probably something wrong with the story.
I think so too. And you
You've got to be
can't
able to
tell
do
it.
that. Yeah, even if it's not a polished synopsis, if you've got the basics things in it, then you know it, and you can see very clearly is what's happening in your story. And without it, you're struggling, something
Right.
wrong. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I think you're right on that.
yeah. Well, that's very exciting. Okay, so now unfortunately, everybody has to wait for your book to come out,
I'm so sorry.
but
But I
that's
am
okay.
working on something else. I'm working on a new thing that probably I'm going to start dropping on my website as a serial book. It's called Hitman Honey.
Yeah,
Hitman Honey. And it's kind of a magnet story. I'm going to be giving it away for free. It's serial based.
nice.
But I'm very excited about it because it has two older characters in it. The hero is like 65. He's from Ireland. And the heroine is 52. She's from Delaware, of course.
Right.
And when he's not a hitman, he keeps bees. So he keeps bees and has honey.
Yeah.
And she's a romance writer, and she's just starting to discover who she is. And she's in the middle of a nasty divorce from her cheating husband. That's not biographical. She was an attorney, and he's on the verge, and the hitman's on the verge of retiring from his occupation because he's tired of it and he's just ready to retire. And they have their meet cute moment at the Gaylord Hotel while she's there for her RWA conference. And they meet in the atrium of that. And he doesn't know it yet, but she's going to be his target.
Mm.
So I plan on dropping that probably at the end of September. So
Okay.
and actually I'm
And
working
by
on
dropping
that.
it, you mean like you're going to do the first,
Serial,
the
like
next
one episode a week, maybe 1,200 to
right?
1,500 words.
Yeah.
I think it'll top off at maybe 45,000. It's going to be a short story. This was a story that just popped into my head while I was at the Gaylord, and I've been writing it ever since.
Fantastic. So with that, come into the community when you're launching it and post it
I will.
because people can then come and read it from there, right? And
Right, they can. It's what's really interesting when you're working with a publisher, because you're not self-publishing. You can't do things whenever you want. Like, okay,
yes,
I'm going to do this. I'm going to have this out here. When you're waiting for things to come back for line editing and this and that, you
yeah,
have to do stuff. You have to fill your time with things that are
sure.
And I'm waiting for beta readers to get back from the second book. So I'm
Right.
writing this other thing, this magnet book. So you're always working on something. Always.
Yeah.
You have to fill your time.
Now I have to ask you this because it's serial. Are you using Fictionary then to make sure that you've got
Yes, I'm going to put it in Fictionary for sure, because again, this is a magnet book. If people don't like a free book, how are they going to pay for another book, right?
Yeah, so I'd love to follow this as you go through the process of doing your serial fiction. That is really interesting to see how you're going to, do the book, and then how you're going to release the book, and how are you going to separate the scenes. And these are all things that I think other authors would be really interested in. That it's a great way to do a magnet. Serial fiction is becoming very popular right now. Amazon has their Vellum program, and Barnes and Noble has a program for serialized fiction. So it's becoming a thing that
I tried Radish for a while. I took my Truth Moon, this was very early on, and I just put it up there to see how it flew with beta. I figured it was like having zillions of beta readers, right?
Yeah.
But you could tell when the story fell off because they're paying coins. They're like, they're putting money up as little as it is, but you could see where the fall off was. I could tell, they got bored at chapter 7, and all of a sudden,
great feedback.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's a great way to test a book.
Sure.
The only thing you got to keep in mind is some publishers don't like it if a book has been published, and you have to find out what their rules are. Do they think that is a published book, or do they just think that, that's not a published book? My publisher was good about it. She said, as long as it's down for 3 months prior to us, we're
Right.
fine.
Yeah, and it's not like it's been all over the place and nobody's
Right,
going to
right,
buy it
right.
because it was in
But I
one.
did get 40,000 readers in 3 months.
That's amazing, right? And even
And
that's a great stat, right? You think,
right,
okay, 40,000 readers read it. You took this big learning experience of here, the book is dull. I got to fix that.
right, right,
That's really valuable. Yeah.
right.
So you've I mean, there's so many great little nuggets. So I'm going to go back and watch this and pull those out and put them in the highlights because there's so many great little things in here. And that's the point of these interviews is to help other people too, that they can learn from your experience of how did you get to the success you have today and what was your journey and all that kind of stuff. So I really, really appreciate that you've come on and talked about it. And so what we'll do is when your book does come out, we will update the YouTube blurb and things to put buy links and stuff. And so for now, it's just a teaser. People have to wait, and that's okay. I will wait too, but I'm looking forward to this. Is my Fictionary bookshelf of Fictionary published books, and so I love to buy them, read them, and store them on my bookshelf.
Cool.
Yeah, it's my feel good bookshelf. Sure, we'll just finish off here. And thank everybody for watching, and stay tuned for when Kay's book comes out. So thank you very much, Kay, for
Great.
coming and
It's
talking.
great talking to you.
Yeah, you too. All righty.